I've been pounding the table pretty early that there's going to be no alt season this time. That there will be sector based seasons. Why? There's just too many coins. There's too many coins. There's just not enough capital for an alt season to happen.
This episode is brought to you by Kraken OTC. Get access to 24/7 trading services for high net worth individuals and institutional clients to execute orders over $100,000. You'll hear more about them later in the show. Hey guys, just a quick mention that the 1000X podcast has launched its very own feed for all you listeners on Apple and Spotify. We will keep publishing episodes on Empire for the next couple weeks, so all you listeners get a chance to port over to the new feed. But after that, all episodes will go out exclusively over there. The new feed gives you earliest access to the episode, so make sure you click the link in the show notes or search 1000X on your podcast app to go follow the new feed and leave a rating. All right, let's get into the episode.
Back to another 1000X podcast. In the midst of market meltdown, Joan and I have come together to give you guys the take that everything's going to be okay, that you shouldn't worry so much, that you should go outside, touch some grass. You know, I tweeted that there's a lot of dispersion in market opinion recently, and that's unequivocally bullish on the market. And then I followed it up with, I'm looking for entry points this weekend. Now, what ended up happening is that Sunday night we imploded, and what tends to happen is that if you get an implosion on a weekend or on a Sunday, specifically a Sunday, it comes to a climax on Monday because everyone's adjusting to the new information and they all get out. And I think that's what just happened. Jonah, do you agree with me? Are you unequivocally bullish on this market?
Yeah, I am. I think it's notable that Bitcoin. Well, first we can go through like your tweet. Your tweet was brilliant. I couldn't have articulated it better myself. I tend to get scared when everybody's consensus bearish or bullish. Scared when people are consensus bullish. Greedy when people are consensus bearish. I like the Warren Buffett quote about that. And yeah, there's not a lot of consensus right now. You have some really prominent, respectable people in the crypto trading community calling, for cycle peak having already happened, and others like you and me saying, there's much more to come. There's a big debate about which inning we're in. Frankly, who cares about innings? It's about price. But, some people are saying we're in the 8th or 9th inning of the ball game. Others are saying we're in the 4th or the 5th in terms of this bull market. So yeah, I think when everybody's just like all over the place and the fundamentals of our asset class are still really strong, and you get, we've talked about fundamental sell-offs and technical sell-offs, sort of a technical sell-off, I think that's a really good entry point. Like we had a crazy technical sell-off last year around like midsummer. I think it was August. I forget why off the top of my head, but that was a big technical sell-off related to some like rate hike or liquidity thing that was completely exogenous to crypto. That was the buying opportunity of the year. And I think, I wouldn't call this a massive buying opportunity because it's already bounced back and rebounded most of what we, lost overnight, traded down to 97,500 in Bitcoin. And now we're back up to 101.5. So, it's not a screaming buy. I think you're just supposed to look at the chart and say the fact that Bitcoin is still right smack in the middle of the recent range, despite all this fear.
NASDAQ went down 3.5%.
NVIDIA down 18% too. Yeah.
So. And the NVIDIA sell-off to me was really funny because everyone's ascribing it to DeepSeek. And I think that's right. And what I spent today doing is trying to figure out if I was missing anything, because to me, DeepSeek doesn't seem like it should send the markets tumbling. This reminds me of the age-old blockchain debate that we've actually had on this podcast. The debate is, well, if blockchains reduce fees tremendously and they become extremely scalable, then how could they ever have any real value? Because they're not going to generate any meaningful revenue. If fees come down, then you need usage to go up. And the argument is that it's like a highway. You can widen the lanes of a highway, but what you're really doing is you're just allowing more people to drive on it. Like there's still latent demand for all this. And this is how I feel about AI. Like even if, and just to give everyone a background, why are people freaking out about DeepSeek? It's because they've proved that you can run these models on far less compute power than we originally believed.
They claim, they haven't proven. Like
they claim. Now, the why are people worried? Well, if you can run models with less compute power, then you need less chips. If you assume that demand stays the same, you need less data centers, which Meta has invested in a data center the size of Manhattan. Everyone and their mother is building out data centers. Why? Because they think that there's going to be a massive increase in demand. And I don't think that there's finite demand for AI. If it's supply and demand, if you take something like an orange and you cut the price in half, more people are going to buy it. If you take something like ChatGPT and it becomes cheaper to run, more people are going to sign up for it. And so I don't think we've reached the point where we've increased scalability for AI so much that demand is not going to be able to get us back to where we were. If anything, this makes AI more attractive and more usable across a variety of different applications. Things that were cost prohibitive before are now economic. And so they're going to come online, right? And so I think that this is a complete misunderstanding of what's actually happening. And you can say, well, maybe what this means is that all of these companies that we thought had massive advantages in AI are not going to be able to compete. But none of these companies, other than OpenAI, had a moat anyway, because it's open source. I mean, Facebook's AI Llama is open source. DeepSeek is open source, so really you just can integrate it if you want. Hopefully there are no Chinese spy bugs in it, but you can open source it. This is an overreaction, and to me represents a great buying opportunity, which is why I bought today. Dipped my feet. I used some cash that I had on the side to go buy equities specifically. I'm already sort of full crypto exposure. But yeah, I mean, I just don't think that this is a real concern.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I mean, obviously there's the bearish argument, the economically bearish argument that stock market gurus are talking about right now, is the fact that there's just been this, $1 gold rush spend on AI build out, AI infrastructure, like you alluded to, and maybe that's going to stop, maybe or slow down. And yeah, that's short-term bearish Nvidia, because if DeepSeek is real, which I doubt it is, by the way. Side note,
what do you mean you doubt it is? People are using it.
The CEO of Scale AI came out and said that it was trained using, a cluster of NVIDIA H100s that they didn't report, right? So it may be a little bit lighter than, or maybe it may be a little bit heavier than they're purporting it is. But my main point is that let's assume that DeepSeek is just...
I'm sorry, let me just get this straight. Are you saying that a Chinese-based company might have lied?
Yes.
This is
I'm not saying it. I'm just quoting like a major player in the AI space. Scale AI is like a data.
I don't think there have ever been any instances of fraud in the Chinese market,
or in markets of any kind. Markets are fraud free. Yeah, I agree. So it's like, let's just assume that they're telling the truth, which is already a stretch. Maybe it means a little bit less data center spend in the near term, which is bad for NVIDIA and any other provider of data centers. So maybe like some private equity group within Blackstone is like, oh, dang, we're going to have less demand for data centers. But to me, it's bullish for everything else in the S&P 500. Like, if you can just create O3 level AI at the edge with like a couple of Max Studios stacked on top of one another, that opens up a whole bunch of new applications. If AI becomes cheaper for for the masses. There's going to be more demand, like you said. Prices come down, but volume goes up. Ultimately, like, this should be massively bullish equities. And as far as crypto is concerned, Bitcoin is just correlated with the NASDAQ at the moment, and it's kind of outperforming the NASDAQ right now. It's only down 1%, whereas the NASDAQ is down 3%, like you said. So, Bitcoin is showing relative strength, which tells you something. And furthermore, as far as like AI coins and some of the altcoins that tanked on this news, I think that cheaper AI is good for crypto. What's bad for AI coins right now is that there's just too many coins, including too many AI coins. So there's a lot of dilution out there, and investors don't know which token to buy because there are too many choices. But what's good for AI coins is the fact that the argument against the intersection of AI and crypto and its future is that crypto isn't a fast enough platform to have access to this like world beating AI that's done inside of these centralized companies. And if DeepSeek is real, then anyone can spin up a super powerful decentralized artificially intelligent application, slap a token on it, give it some utility, and then before long, off to the races with what could potentially be a really useful product.
This episode is sponsored by Kraken OTC. You can trade over chat or even access Kraken's self-service automated trading feature to receive executable quotes in seconds. With access to Kraken's fully personalized service, you can guarantee a secure trading experience with deep liquidity and competitive execution. To get in touch, click the link in the show notes or head on over to kraken.com/blockworks. Availability of products may vary by jurisdiction. See legal disclosures for each jurisdiction at kraken.com/legal/disclosures. Crypto trading involves risk of loss and is offered to customers through Payward Interactive. Hey everyone, Jason here. There's a reason why Ledger is trusted to secure more than 20% of the world's crypto assets today. Check out their newest devices, the Ledger Stacks and the Ledger Flex, featuring the world's first secure touchscreens. Take your security seriously. Hit the link in the show notes of today's episode to check out their latest devices. Trust me, you won't regret it.
I was thinking this earlier. The market has so clearly become more efficient and smarter than it was even 2 years ago. I mean, even last year. For the longest time, if you ever had an announcement about a specific sector in the traditional world, then the crypto coins would kind of run for no reason. So, like, I remember when OpenAI, like 2 years ago, when OpenAI would launch a new model, or a year ago when OpenAI would launch a new model, all the AI coins would rally off this. Right? Like Render or NVIDIA would announce earnings. I think that worked even 6 months ago, and AI coins would rally. And then you get this like insane development and breakthrough in AI, and nothing happens. The market has gotten smarter, because the reality is that there was no reason for these things to rally. Now, there is one standout here, which is that something called Alchemy Pay went up like 90% because it's a quote unquote Chinese coin. And this thing called Conflux also went up 10%, outperforming the market. But I mean, there was no broad-based reaction from AI coins, which I think, it brings me to my next point here, which is that the market is really genuinely rewarding research. And there's a tremendous amount of dispersion. One of the biggest discussions on CT over the last month, 2 months, has been alt season. It's like, when does alt season happen? And first, let's define alt season. Alt season is when alts across the board, doesn't matter what they are or what they do, they go up because people are trying to get more risk on. And that happened for like a week this year. But it didn't really happen in the way that people expected it to, right? Like, we're kind of designed over the last few cycles to expect alt season to be this period of a month or 3 weeks where everything 5x's. Alt season this time was more like things go up and outperform by 15 to 30%. Right? Like Litecoin going from $82 to $120. I mean, 50%, right? But there was no It didn't go from 80 to 400 like it has in previous alt cycles. And so that, it brings me to a question posed here saying, do you think that that will happen again? Or do you think that people just have to start actually buying the good stuff?
It's a great question. So I've been pounding the table pretty early that there's going to be no alt season this time, that there will be sector based seasons. We did see a dino season like XRP and HBAR and some of these random like 2017 and 2013 coins went ballistic. I do fully expect an AI altcoin season. I think that mania will hit crypto later this year. I think the catalyst will be agents crossing the chasm into mainstream usage and token related activities and games and gambling inside of these agents or terminals related to these agents that you access with tokens. So I think that tokenomics can definitely translate into an AI altcoin season. But I don't know if I get to take credit for this, but when I started posting about there not being an alt season this cycle, I think I was the only one. So, that seems to be consensus now, and I feel like I was early to that idea. Why? There's just too many coins. There's too many coins. Like we mentioned it earlier on the podcast. It's bewildering. How can everything go up when I think Brian Armstrong tweeted that Coinbase's new whitelist policy for which tokens they put on their exchange is that it can't be a whitelist anymore because there are 1 million tokens a week getting created. So it's going to switch from whitelist to blacklist, where they just like identify with AI things that violate their terms of use, and they're just going to block those and let everything else through the floodgates. And so when you're in that world, there's just not enough capital for an alt season to happen. And we did kind of, to your point, have an alt season for a little bit, like right around between the election outcome and the inauguration. But it wasn't an alt season in the sense that like altcoins outperformed Bitcoin. Like, yes, BTCD went down, but like vast swaths of altcoins rallied, but they underperformed Bitcoin, which I wouldn't really call an alt season. I would just call them like
there was a period, December, late November, December, where everything there were a lot of rotations. So like Chainlink, for example, went from $14 to $28 and then went straight back down. Like Litecoin did that move. Ripple was sort of a standout there. It's like kind of the only one. But again, that like I wouldn't place that into an alt season bucket because I think Ripple was actually a quote unquote good coin to buy. Like there was a period of time where those shit coins did rally, but they're all back down like pretty quickly with Bitcoin at the highs. And what that tells you is like the cycling of capital is pretty insane right now.
Yeah.
And it also tells you if you can tolerate the pain of being underwater on some positions, there are probably some very compelling trades out there.
Yeah.
You might not nail the exact top on something, but for example, I think a month ago when we talked about SUI, I said that you have to wait for it to break the 50-day moving average, get a bounce, and then short that. And that's what's happening right now. It did break that 50-day moving average. And so that's probably a good short. Like if you're not sure where the market's going to go, or you're just looking for an alpha trade, it's like, okay, well, let's look at some trades or some assets that I think will do well. Maybe you're looking for a catalyst like DTAO, Tao's releasing some stuff over the next few weeks. And that's underperformed for a while. Maybe that starts performing, and then maybe you want to hedge out some market risk by you want to short some SUI against that because SUI looks particularly vulnerable. These types of trades present themselves. I mean, maybe you're down 10, 15% on the SUI trade at some point, but probably works over a month, or over 6 weeks. And so this is a lot of the type of trading that I'm looking at doing right now. I mean, another example of this was getting long XRP, short ETH. It's think that was a good trade. I still think that's a good trade, actually, although I'm a little bit more nervous about being short ETH now, so I might have to move that over to something else, just based on how poorly ETH has performed.
Thank you for talking me out of ETH last year, by the way. What
You're
a
welcome.
dud. Oh my God. It's still a dud. I would have thought by now it would be like, I thought the regulatory moat that ETH has built from just years of people caring about ETH more than any other smart contract platform would protect it, and that it would sort of start to perform even if its tech is inferior. But like, I think it's pretty clear that it's too awkward.
We're very close to just being completely over for this asset.
Yeah.
Like, I hate to say it. I really do hate to say it, but I mean, they're fucked, man. And they're fucked for so many reasons. It's not just the technical. They have no real leadership. The Ethereum Foundation's a joke. Vitalik is checked out, as much as he claims he's not. And the main thing that they had that I kept saying that they were going to be able to take advantage of was the ETF. And they're going to lose that advantage in the next 6 to 8 months. I think that's very clear. There's going to be an XRP ETF. There's going to be a Sol ETF. There might even be a Litecoin ETF. And like, who buys ETH in this scenario? That's why, like, I think I don't love shorting ETH on days like today when ETH BTC is down 1%, 2%. But basically every 10 days for the last 6 months, ETH has gone up 3% against Bitcoin in a day because of short covering. And that's just been like the trade. You just short it like every time it's up.
Sell every pop.
Like sell every pop, right? I mean, you don't want to be one of those guys that shorts on a down day and then gets squeezed into the up day. You want to be one of those guys that shorts the up day. And I mean, even if ETH ends up if every single short on ETH covers, it probably goes to 0.45. That's a big move. That's 50% move. That would be the greatest short of a lifetime.
Yeah.
Because I think the trend is down, and it's funny. Crypto is such an interesting asset class because consistently you have people trying to find the contrarian take, and the contrarian take for the last 6 months has been ETH is going to outperform. And I've said this myself and I've been wrong before. And every time I'm like, okay, maybe it's time for ETH BTC to do well. It does well. It does like 10%, 15% move. And then it just immediately goes straight back down. And I'm like, okay, fuck, maybe not. Like sometimes, just a lesson to investors and traders out there. Sometimes there's a reason that people are bearish. Like sometimes it's just like the collective has realized that this thing is fucked. And just because everyone realizes it doesn't mean that it can't go down more.
I mean, yeah, you bring up a good point. Like the contrarian take has been wrong for so long in this one that it's hard to get behind it. It kind of reminds me of how I felt about Solana in like just post FTX. Solana was like breaking left and right. I forget what the name of that app was that like where it was like a walking app where you had, Solana sneakers, and the thing would like give you tokens for the amount of distance that you walked with them. But like just that walking app, like a few people using it like bowled over the network. And I was basically like, okay, the monolithic L1 doesn't work. Solana's not charging enough. It's too centralized. It's basically like not fulfilling its promise. And the core team, Anatoly and co, shipped and fixed and did what they had to do. They got past FTX. And then it was like, went from $8 to, $280 in a straight line. One of the best trades in the history of crypto for a mature token. I'm wondering to myself out loud if we could see one of those moves in ETH. And I think what it would have to take in order for that to happen is Base would have to become ETH. Like they basically, the core team, Vitalik, they would have to just like ride off into the sunset and just hand over stewardship of the asset and the ecosystem to whoever's building Base. because base is great. There's stuff going on base, but like it's just kind of a buzzkill that you have to bridge assets from the main net to base, either through Coinbase or through like these, random protocols that are kind of sketchy looking. Like why can't you just have base be a monolithic L1 with an ETH token and just move on from this? Technically I'm sure that's difficult or impossible, or somebody who's really in the weeds could probably tell me why it's not an option, but like, man, the ETH mainnet is just outdated. It's like using like one of those telephones where you have to like swivel your finger around a circular dial.
You mean a rotary phone?
Yeah, exactly. It's so. Have you tried trading on ETH recently or doing anything? It's just like
no. Yeah, I mean, no, in the sense that not trading on ETH. Yes, in the sense that it took me like 10 minutes to move all my money off of ETH.
Yeah,
so I was getting it over to base. It's sad. ETH was something that got me very excited about crypto, but I also feel like we flogged this horse, the poor ETH horse, a lot.
It could come back though. Like
are you combing your hair right now?
Yeah. I got a comb on my desk and I'm just styling.
Why? You're also combing the side of your hair. It's not even. You're not even like poofing it.
No, I'm not poofing it. I got headphones on. It's just the side is what's risk. Low risk, high reward.
Yeah, I wish I had hair.
It also feels good just to run a comb through your hair. It's like a little head.
It's like a little head. Exactly. Have you ever used one of those things?
Oh yeah, those things are great. It's always better if somebody else uses one on you rather than you doing it yourself.
It's amazing how that works. But what here a trick, you can just sit on your hand till it doesn't feel like anymore. Just give yourself a head massage.
Heard of that one.
With it. Yeah, but it's a temporary fix, like everything ETH does to try to improve itself. Temporary fix. I think there's always a lot of inertia to this stuff. It's never a fast death; it's a slow death. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, right? I think the death will be fast. Like if you compare it to the death of BlackBerry or the death of Cisco, I guess not Cisco, but Sears.
At least ETH is valued like ETH. What's the fully diluted? What's the FTV of ETH right now? Let me look this up. It is $380 billion. So even if it dies slowly, you have a nice high sharp trade for a while, just while it slowly, smoothly trickles lower.
This episode is brought to you by Kraken OTC, one of crypto's longest running exchanges with over a decade of experience. With Kraken OTC, high net worth individuals and institutional clients get white glove 24/7 trading services for orders over $100,000. You can trade over chat or even access Kraken's self-service automated trading feature to receive executable quotes in seconds. With access to Kraken's fully personalized service, you can guarantee a secure trading experience with deep liquidity and competitive execution. To get in touch, click the link in the show notes or head on over to kraken.com/blockworks. Availability of products may vary by jurisdiction. See legal disclosures for each jurisdiction at kraken.com/legal/disclosures. Crypto trading involves risk of loss and is offered to customers through Payward Interactive. Earlier in today's episode, I mentioned Ledger's latest products, the Stacks and Flex, and I wanted to take a few seconds to tell you more about them. These wallets feature the world's first secure touchscreens, which don't just simplify your digital transactions, but also keep them extremely safe. These wallets are virtually impenetrable to online attacks because they store your private key in a secure offline chip. You can manage more than 5,500 tokens and install up to 100 apps. Choose the most trusted name in hardware wallets and take control of your digital security today at ledger.com or hit the link in the description of today's episode to check out their latest wallets.
I want to talk about this Bitcoin SBR for a second, because I came across something today that was actually really interesting that I haven't seen. Like not many people have talked about this, and we certainly haven't. I subscribe to this research service called 13D. I really like them. They're really good. This is not an ad. I pay them. They don't pay me. I wish they paid me. I pay them a lot of freaking money, but they're really good. And I want to read you something from their most recent report where they talked about the SBR. And these are TradFi guys, but they really like BTC. It says, the mere discussion of an SBR in the US, the mere fact that Trump has said that the US will not sell its current Bitcoin holdings, not to mention the broader favorable pivot towards Bitcoin, are sufficient to confirm some early adopter countries to front run the competition and to pursue their own version of an SBR, regardless of what the US ultimately decides to do. Now, I think that's 100% correct, but I hadn't seen anything happen on this. Apparently, on December 9th, a deputy from the Russian Duma submitted a proposal to the Russian finance minister to create a strategic Bitcoin reserve. It's quoted by Russian media, widely reported in Russia. I ask you to consider creating a Bitcoin reserve in Russia. Additionally, Pierre Poy, this Canadian guy, I don't know how to pronounce his last name. It sounds very French to me. He loves Bitcoin. And so we could see a pretty drastic reversal in Bitcoin policy from Canada. And we already, see Canada being pushed around by the US a bit right now. They might want to front run us. A Brazilian congressman also submitted a bill to create a strategic reserve of Bitcoin for the federal government. Unlikely that happens, but it's possible. And earlier this week, apparently a group of Chilean deputies are considering submitting to Congress a proposal for an SBR. There's a lot happening.
Yeah. And it's not just like nations, like Texas, Pennsylvania, Ohio, like Florida, Oklahoma, New Hampshire, North Dakota. These states are considering strategic Bitcoin reserves. They're at various phases right now.
Yeah, that's actually also something I hadn't paid attention to.
No.
It's very possible that U.S. states lead the way.
And if U.S. states lead the way, like let's say that Texas creates a strategic Bitcoin reserve, you can be damn sure that the Texas teachers retirement system, which is like one of the largest passive investment vehicles,
they already invest
in
crypto, by the way.
Yeah, but like you can be sure they're going to be upping their ante a little bit,
Oh, 100%.
And I don't know about the Florida Teachers Retirement Association if they have any Bitcoin, but if Florida has an SBR, maybe they'll dabble, right? It's kind of like Bitcoin is becoming regionally popular and accepted in a way that it hasn't been before. It feels like a really recent shift. So to me, it's like if you're allocating your own portfolio, if you're not mostly like in terms of what your core long crypto portfolio looks like, your core longs, if you're not mostly in Bitcoin, you'd better be really convicted in whatever alts you've chosen, because your alts are getting diluted just every single day.
I mean, the only reason to not, and this is candidly almost always been true, the only reason to own alts is if you have a smaller portfolio and you're really just gunning for the moon.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it just doesn't really make a ton of sense. There hasn't been a single altcoin in the history of altcoins that has consistently outperformed Bitcoin.
Solana?
I mean,
maybe one or two. The point, your point stands.
I kind of, right? Obviously you can make a ton of money from trading alts, but Solana is below its 2021 highs.
Yeah, fair enough.
Right. I mean, the alts tend to have this chart. They go up really fucking hard against Bitcoin and really fast, and then they bleed. And the bleed doesn't mean that there aren't periods of time where Solana goes up 3x while Bitcoin is flat. But what it means is that if you're holding this thing for 5 years, you end up not making as much money if you just held, you could just hold Bitcoin.
Kind of goes back to your point about what VCs do in crypto. Their edge is being early, not being particularly visionary, like just getting in on good deals at that sort of like pre-IPO price. And that's kind of what you have to do with alts, right? Like, okay, fine, maybe you can't get in on certain deals, but like if you subscribe to interesting services like our friends over at Blockworks Research or any number of other crypto savvy kind of publications, maybe you can catch one of these alt moves in its early phases. Memecoins take that to the extreme, obviously, but maybe you can catch one of these altcoin projects in their early phases right before they moon against Bitcoin. And then you have to be diligent about getting out quickly and not just like sitting on your bags for 5 years and underperforming Bitcoin.
100%, which is why, right now, like that's the best trade I see is just buying Bitcoin on liquidation runs. and trying to trade that. I mean, right now Bitcoin's in a bit of a precarious spot short term. We could easily trade back down to the bottom of the range at 90, at which point I think it's a buy again. But yeah, I mean, in that scenario, altcoins just get absolutely obliterated. Great time to buy sort of the leaders in AI, but right now I'm sort of holding tight. And the reason I'm holding tight is because while I am unambiguously bullish over the next 2 months, we hit a lull and we have FOMC, and it's very unlikely that news about the SBR is going to come out in the next 1 to 2 weeks, which allows selling to take place. So I think the way that I'd phrase it is that cash is very valuable right now because there's high uncertainty over the next 2 weeks, and it would be great to be able to buy Bitcoin 10% lower. And if news does come out, okay, get back in. But at least for right now, I think Bitcoin is ranging like you said, and it will eventually resolve this range much higher.
I think, I mean, I think what sends it back up is sovereign and governments buying, like nations and states. That flow is coming. It seems like it's not very far out. So, definitely wouldn't be shorting Bitcoin if it heads back to the high end of the range. And I think that higher Bitcoin will bleed money into certain sectors, certain leaders of certain sectors, like you said. Like I like the leaders in the AI space. I think certain agents will perform. This is probably, it's a scary time to buy that stuff.
1000x has been 1000x.
Oh, if only. Maybe AI XBT. Who knows? I think there's a lot of innovation going on that people are sleeping on in that sector. I just, it's a bit scary to buy right now. I'm pretty much maxed out on AI. I got in, decent levels on average below here, but nothing like amazing. I wonder if there are any other sectors, Avi, that are just going to explode when we get, hopefully a broader crypto market rally later this year. People are talking about DeFi again. I think meme coins are toast, like old school meme coins. Like maybe you have Doge and Trump performing, but like I think WIF is going to zero, Popcat, Michi, all this random crap that people got excited about for 10 minutes last summer when there was nothing else to do. But what other sectors? Is there anything else we should be looking at?
It's a good question, and I haven't run this exercise yet, but I should. There will be meme coins that do well, and it depends on it depends on their community. Like, how involved and outrageous is the community still? There have to be some, like the WIF community is pretty depressed, and I don't think there's anyone that actually, like, the WIF memes are not hitting anymore. They're not doing it for
doesn't have staying power. Yeah.
It's like not like that doesn't have staying power, but there's probably a meme out there somewhere that does, and it's my job to go find it. If any of you listening to this have any ideas or are part of any meme communities that are still having a great time despite the depression in meme coins, let me know. I probably am going to allocate to you. But like the way that you got to think about this is go in the Discord. Are there good vibes? Like what meme coins still have good vibes?
Trump, maybe.
Yeah. One other big thing that is coming up is that Berachain is going live soon. The rumors are that could be a liquidity suck, and would also make the Sui short really good because Sui's kind of the only new sexy L1 that exists. All the other new sexy I guess you can say hype, but it's not ready yet. I think hype and hyper EVM is coming in Q1, so we have 2 months. Because whenever a crypto project says Q1, what they really mean is the first week of Q2.
Yep.
That's what I've learned. Or
if it's ETH and they say Q1, it means Q1 4 years later.
Yeah. So I do think that the short L1 trade, if you want to like sell anything that isn't Solana, because Solana has some potential ETF tailwinds, Berachain could, at least for a few days, probably suck the wind out of the room for these guys. I would assume that TVL goes over there because people are really excited about Berachain. Including myself. They managed to garner a substantial amount of TVL pretty quickly. And the one thing through my discussions with the Berachain team that I've always appreciated is that they were so focused on usable applications. Like they just refused to launch anything before they knew they could go live with actual applications that people would enjoy using. And so I think we're going to see that. And if on the first day we don't, then I'm just wrong about the thesis.
What is the thesis for Berachain? I know they have a couple of different tokens. They have like their liquidity token, they have their main token, and they have some random thing that's hard to access. But like, I haven't done too much research on the Berachain ecosystem. It's not an interesting trade to me because the world just doesn't need another L1, in my opinion. I think we're good with what we've got. For now.
Yeah, look, I'm not saying that you buy Berachain and ride it 10x. I'm saying that if they launch with usable applications on day one, which is their intent, then all the other L1s probably suffer a lot.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I guess what valuation are they talking about in terms of FDV?
No idea. I mean,
yeah, it depends on it's like if
could
they come out at
1 billion to 5 billion to 10 billion to 20 billion. I mean, who knows?
If it comes out below 3, I'll probably buy it on a yo. Above that, not touching it with a 10-foot pole.
I think that's reasonable.
Yeah.
What other things are happening? Yeah, we talked about the hyper EVM. We talked about Berachain. One thing that was kind of interesting is one of my analysts brought up in 3 days, the Jito tip router goes live, which is apparently going to route an additional 40 to 80 million to the Jito DAO treasury annually. And, Jupiter's done well recently with their announcements. There's currently no buyback or yield distribution of Jito DAO, but what's kind of interesting is that number 40 to 80 million. I actually didn't realize like how much money these things are generating in this new regulatory environment. The things that actually generate real money, they're going to figure out a way in the next 4 years to pass that back to users.
Yeah,
to pay some sort of dividend. And I'm actually pretty bullish on that idea that, things like Aave, things like Uniswap, things that, maybe even Maker that generate reasonable fees are going to figure out how to use those fees properly because they're not going to be scared of the SEC coming and shutting them down for being a security. So that could be the next, accumulate some things that are generating real revenue. Could be the next trade.
Yeah, I think it will be. It's a sleeper because people aren't really talking about it. We've talked about it on the podcast for over a year now. Like that's going to be crypto's moment when you can just tokenize your project and pass through any gains to users. That's when crypto effectively disrupts traditional equity. And trad equity is inefficient because it's heavily regulated, difficult to access for a lot of people around the world, and involves a lot of paperwork. And in some cases, you have to prove that you're an accredited investor. Just all sorts of things that make investing in equity difficult are completely frictionless in crypto. Like, for example, our 1000X project, our 1000X agent, if we want to get like people to help us with something, we can distribute tokens pretty quickly. If we want more people to buy tokens, which, we haven't really like gone for as a message yet. We might though, is you just give the token some utility. And if you say, hey, this token is the equity for a business, and if you hold tokens, you get paid, like that's the ultimate reason to go and buy a token. But even without that utility, like attracting a software developer and some branding people and, just general help where we needed it was super easy, way easier than like going and trying to create an LLC and like distributing shares in the LLC. That would have taken like thousands or tens of thousands of dollars in legal fees, and people in multiple random jurisdictions around the world probably couldn't have accessed it very easily. So I don't know, like tokens are just so much easier to work with than what's out there for aligning incentives in these projects. And that's one of the reasons why I got into crypto. It's just, that seems so obvious to me. I mean, maybe I was a little bit early to that trend, but I think it's going to be kind of one of those like slowly then all at once type moves where we wake up, maybe it's 6 months from now, maybe it's a year from now, and some bill gets passed. Then there's that like kind of crickets moment. And then everybody realizes like, oh shit, this means that, you know, millions of people are going to flock to buy these tokens because they generate yield, like real dollarized yield, and not just like random crypto degens, like people at hedge funds, people with any sort of financial savvy and access to, you know, funds will go and buy stuff that offers a good, you know, legal investment return.
You know what? I think I'm going to start making that bet, Jonah. I'm going to, after this podcast, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Token Terminal. I'm going to look for the highest revenue generating projects. I'm going to make a basket of them, and then I'm just going to accumulate them and short L1s against them. That L1s, like these L1s are fucked.
There are
like,
a lot of fucked.
Who the fuck is buying Optimism or Arbitrum right now?
Well, technically those are
who
are
L2s, the hell is buying Avalanche right now?
Who the hell is buying Polkadot?
Who's buying Aptos? Who's buying Polkadot? Who's buying this shit?
Who's buying Say? There's so many of these things. I mean,
nobody needs them. We need Berachain. We need Solana.
you need Berachain. Yeah, exactly.
I need Berachain. I mean,
you want Berachain.
I'd like Berachain.
Yeah.
You know, I like Smokey. He's a funny guy.
He's really articulate.
He is articulate. I do like how they managed to get all these. The thing that I love about them is that
it's the party chain.
Fucking dude, their mascot's a bear smoking a bong, and they somehow managed to get all these institutional allocators in. Like, can you imagine sitting in front of? I think they get Susquehanna in. I know they got Brevin Howard in. Imagine sitting in front of those guys and being, you know, just saying, "Hey, listen. So we're called Berachain. We started because we launched a bunch of NFTs of bears smoking a bong, and take us seriously." And then they did, and got like hundreds of millions of dollars of investment. I mean, that's got to say something about their marketing ability.
They are excellent at marketing, which is maybe all it takes to launch a successful chain. Because as we've realized, it's not just the tech that matters. It's the community.
It's definitely not just the tech.
Supposedly they threw the best party at Token 2049 in Singapore. It was just a big Berachain rave. The idea of a token being launched on like an entire ecosystem with a token being launched on like vibes, humor, and a dude in a bear suit wearing a Hawaiian shirt on top of it. Like it's one of those things that makes me like love crypto, but also be kind of ashamed to be associated with it. You know, like I
don't be ashamed. Be happy.
Trump made me ashamed.
You get to be part of an industry. Trump definitely made me ashamed.
Yeah, the crypto is about being ashamed occasionally. Like we're all blessed that we're in a bull market. If that's why you have to be so careful when you enter a proper bear market in crypto. Like once prices start trending down, you take 2 steps back and look at some of this shit or most of this shit, and you're just like, there is no value. This is worth zero, right? You have and zero is where it can go from hundreds of billions, which is why you need to be so careful around ETH and be so attentive to the music and ensuring that it's still playing while you have money in this stuff. Bitcoin, the music's going to keep playing for a long time. Some of these other projects, though, like I think you were the one who brought this up, Avi. Like the rotations are just, you need to do it so much faster than you would have even 2-3 years ago.
I mean, I think it's inevitable that Trump goes to zero.
Yeah.
Like I might tweet that just to see what the reaction is.
When I tweeted WIF is going to zero, people are just like, yeah, F you, man. But yeah, like the community is just tired. It's always, bear posting is always a great way to suss out how engaged the community is. And with WIF, it's
let's see how angry people get.
Did you just tweet it just now?
Yeah, I just tweeted it right now.
Cool.
It's literally inevitable. Like like it's going to happen. I mean, WIF was really sad because so many people coalesced around it and like genuinely believed in this thing. And at the end of the day, it's a dog with a hat. And people bet their like life on this thing. Like I know 2 people off the top of my head, like at least half their net worth in this thing. And we somehow like collectively deluded ourselves. Well, I didn't delude myself. You didn't delude yourself, but people were deluded into thinking that meme coins were going to take over the world, that like they were going to become the casinos of the new world. But they're just a game that comes in and out of fashion. I mean, yeah, maybe meme coins won't go anywhere, but
yeah, I mean, I think people were right that meme coins are the new games that are going to take over the world. I think what they've misunderstood is that one given meme coin is not the casino that generates the revenue. The casino is called Solana, and the meme coin du jour is just a game within the casino, right? So don't buy the game, buy the casino.
It's a weird world we live in that we have to think about this kind of stuff. That that means that Trump coin is going to be a phenomenal short in like 3 years.
Yeah, if it hasn't already.
Unless Trump becomes God Emperor of the United States, which the probability I put at 18%. It's not 0.
Definitely not 0. You saw he was like talking about a 3rd or a 4th term. I know he's just trying to trigger people, but it's
is he? I mean, I thought that he was trying to trigger people by buying New Zealand, or sorry, Greenland.
Greenland. Yeah, I thought so too, but he seems pretty serious about that.
He actually took it seriously. I mean, it's one of those things where Trump will just say something, see the reaction, and if he has like enough core support, he'll just go for it.
That's actually not a bad strategy. I honestly, I kind of respect it. I think that there's this great saying in, I think it's Jeff Bezos that came up with this great framework for decision making in business, and I guess it works for politics too. He's like, you kind of have to assess when you walk through a door whether you can walk back through the door and reverse your course or not. And he's like, if you can exit doors that you enter, then you should just enter those doors and see what's behind them. It's like you have to be very careful when you make basically a committal decision where you have to go through the door and you can never come back. And I see a lot of, that approach in Donald Trump. He's definitely opening a lot of doors and trying a lot of random things. And, maybe
the thing with Trump is that he has a very unique ability to go through a door that you think he can't come back through, and then he just walks right back.
Yeah.
Like people just, there's so much mental gymnastics involved with supporting Trump.
Yeah.
That you just automatically assume that if he said something and then did it and then walked it back, it was actually an 8D chess play.
Yeah, that's true.
He always meant to walk it back. He only did that because, he got this out of it. It's like it's crazy.
Yeah, he knew that
somebody that's like pretty right wing and reasonably conservative. I still find him just like just not my cup of tea.
Yeah,
I like him obviously. As a president, voted for him and whatnot. But just
wonder if he. It's like. Wonder if he knew in that trailer before the Access Hollywood appearance, talking to Billy Bush about all sorts of disgusting, vulgar stuff. I wonder if he knew that was going to go viral, and that was like an 8D chess move. He's the master of memes. We all need to be a little bit more like him in terms of just being completely Teflon. I let stuff get to me sometimes, but I think in crypto we have to just got to be a little bit more like Teflon, Don.
You honestly, the best way to make sure that stuff doesn't get to you is just to deny it. Just like that. That's what he does. Do you ever do anything wrong? Deny
till you die. Nope, wasn't there. Didn't see that.
Wasn't me.
Nope.
Wasn't me.
Yeah, wasn't me.
Anyway, Joan, it's a pleasure as always.
Yep. Pleasure talking to you, Avi. Nothing we say is financial advice. It's just shooting the breeze.
Never is, never will be.
Yeah, let's keep grinding on this 1000X agent, and I'll see you next week.
Oh wait, before we go,
Yeah.
have I showed you this before? Hold on. So for those of you that don't know, I went to WashU in St. Louis, and I was actually there when the 2016 presidential debate was happening, and I volunteered for the Donald J. Trump for President campaign.
Wow, you're early, aren't you?
I was an early adopter. I should have gotten an airdrop for this thing.
You haven't changed at all, by the way. You look identical.
Do I?
Yeah. Same haircut. Same general look.
No. Look, I got a few more wrinkles. But other than
Yeah, that's
that,
true. Crypto's put a few years on you.
maybe I should take a picture of this and say I should have gotten an airdrop for this. Anyway.
Yeah. Until next week.
Until next week. This was great, Jonah. Thank you.
Likewise. See you soon.